I played South of Midnight early, at least a little bit of South of Midnight. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're digging into what Compulsion Games is delivering with their next big project. Xbox invited me to play Chapter 3 of the game from start to finish, and that's a vertical slice of the game that shows the experience you get as you get deeper into the combat system, have a few skills unlocked, and can really kind of see what the experience is going to be and what they're shooting to deliver with this next game. Now, I do want to start all this off by saying that I've never really been a die-hard Compulsion fan, but I've always had respect for their work, and they've made some really weird stuff. I mean, look at the About section on their website. Founded in 2009, Compulsion Games started as a handful of dreamers in an old gramophone factory. Now an Xbox game studio, we continue to strive to build hallucinatory adventures in worlds strange but proactively familiar. Looking back on past games in their catalog, you've mainly got Contrast and We Happy Few, and the latter of those was the definition of a hallucinatory adventure. But since We Happy Few, Compulsion has grown from 12 developers to more than 80, which speaks to just how much more they're trying to do with South of Midnight. So, quick overview. You play as Hazel, a younger woman who lives with her mom in the town of Prospero, and it's meant to have this kind of American Deep South Louisiana vibe. They're both getting into an argument in the middle of a hurricane. Hazel storms off, and then her house with her mom inside is washed downriver. But on the flip side, the hurricane also awakens powers in Hazel to make her a weaver that lets her see and rework the fabric of the universe that ties everything together. And that's the setup. You set off on this adventure to find your house and save your mom, but South of Midnight is really about that old folklore inspiration. The folktales that we all grew up with, Jack and the Beanstalk, Hansel and Gretel, the tortoise and the hare, all of these have underlying meanings that drive home valuable life lessons, and you can feel that same kind of DNA in South of Midnight. Now, I don't want to get into spoiler territory here because this is a preview session, but even early on with a quick look at the game, you can see where Compulsion's heads are at when it comes to delivering a story with some real meaning behind it. You're going to be thinking about what you've done, what you've seen, what other people have done. It's got a lot of sustenance to it. And while we're talking about the story, let's talk about a couple of these characters. In Chapter 3, you mainly focus on two main characters, Catfish, who is your guide through the entire game, and Rhubarb, this old man with a bottle tree in his front yard. Catfish was grabbed by the tail by this giant tree man, again, folktale inspiration, and you've got to find a way to get him down, and that leads Hazel to Rhubarb to get a bottle from the bottle tree that's got some magic abilities, and you chat with Rhubarb for a minute, and from there you get into the gameplay. Now we get into the fun stuff. How does South of Midnight play? And going hands-on with this game was interesting because based on what I've played, there's a solid 50-50 split of platforming and combat here, without one element outweighing the other in a really significant way. Fighting is sectioned off in combat areas where you've got these knots that you can only unravel once all of the haints, the enemies that are in the game, have been taken out. And you've got a few different enemy types here, some that spawn these kind of wasps that hone in on you, some that shoot faster attacks, some that are melee, and you fight these with a combination of basic attacks and then a few skills. You've got the basic fast attack and charged melee plus push, pull, and weave abilities that are pretty much what they say they are. Pushing can push projectiles and enemies away, pull brings enemies closer, and then weave is a kind of stun. When you've got the enemy health bars low enough, you can unravel them in this quick little finisher move that adds a little flourish to the combat, and then you can also upgrade your abilities. And obviously I didn't spend a ton of time in here since this is just a quick vertical slice of the game, but you can upgrade skills in a light skill tree. It's nothing that's too wildly deep or bringing RPG level customization, but it is something that adds a little grind to the game to open up these abilities even more. And I mean, come on, who doesn't love a good grind? In my opinion, the combat sections that I played are pretty basic. It's almost got a hack and slash kind of vibe to it, with unraveling enemies being the most satisfying part for me by far. But I'm going to be interested to see how the combat evolves as you get deeper into the game, how it evolved up until the point that I played even, because in the hour-long chapter that I played, there's a good bit of repetition here. They definitely will have to work, whether it's through new enemy types or upgraded skills or something else, to keep it from feeling stale over time. But let's talk about that platforming, because on top of combat abilities, being a weaver also means that Hazel can weave staircases or roofs to reach higher areas and grab collectibles, pull together walls for wall running, or make platforms to cross the water. And wall running in particular is very fun in this game, and that was on full display in one section of the preview. Basically, you're running from an enemy presence of some kind. More to come on that in the full campaign, and it turned into this kind of parkour challenge with jumping, wall running, the full experience. But in normal gameplay, as you're making your way through the level, I think the platforming and parkouring is really well done, and it makes the gameplay feel more engaging compared to the standard running and double jumping, with a nice little added flourish with those weaver abilities. I'm a pretty big fan of this. Where I think South of Midnight really shines, though, is in the storytelling and the world building, because combat areas are scattered across a larger level that guides you along Rhubarb's story. Remember the old man at the beginning of this video that we ran into? He's more important than you might think. Now, you're exploring the area and looking through homes to find these flashback visions that give you a look at Rhubarb's past and the mistakes that he made to understand the guilt that he lives with and the consequences of his actions. These visions or flashbacks are scattered across this chapter, but then you also have hidden areas with secrets you can find that give you the resources you need to upgrade your skills, which is a great way to incentivize people to not just mainline the campaign and grind through the story. And it also gives them a reason to pay even more attention to this gorgeous world that Compulsion has built here. South of Midnight is known for its stop-motion art style, especially in the cutscenes, where everything has this kind of Tim Burton movie look to it, but the moment-to-moment gameplay doesn't have that same choppy look you can get from that kind of style. It's tastefully used in the cutscenes, ditched in the gameplay, but no matter if you're in cutscenes or just wandering around the world, the lighting in the world they've built here is beautiful. You've got sunlight shining through the trees, detailed swampy areas, the whole world just looks very impressive, thanks in part to Unreal Engine 5. Going into my South of Midnight preview, I thought that this game was going to be 2025's Hi-Fi Rush, a creativity-packed sleeper hit that came out of nowhere and really delivered on some inspired new ideas. And coming out of the preview, I'm feeling the same way. This is a game that has a high-quality indie feel to it, even though it's coming from an Xbox Game Studios team. The storytelling and voice acting are excellent, the mix of platforming and combat is great, and there are some shots here that are just absolutely perfect. Now, like I said, I've never been a huge Compulsion guy, but based on my personal interest and taste in games and what I'm looking for in a game, South of Midnight is one that I am all in on. For a $40 game that's also included in Xbox Game Pass, this is definitely one to keep on your wish list. It's got some very cool stuff in there. But I'd love to hear from you guys down below. How do you feel about South of Midnight so far? What do you think about the gameplay, and are you planning on playing this one when it drops? I'd love to know your thoughts. And of course, if you're new here, you like what you see and what you hear, hit that subscribe button for videos like this every week and gaming news shorts throughout the week to keep you in the loop, and I'll catch you on the next one.